very valid question has been asked. Why do we need to know who we are and what it is that we do? There are several little stories of a very great Sufi sheikh called Bayazid. First little anecdote about Bayazid is that one day a seeker came to find him, having learned what a very great being he was. But when the seeker came to Bayazid's house, the door was opened by his wife. And when he made salutations and asked could he see and be introduced to the great, great Saint Bayazid, the wife took a stick to him and said, "What do you want to see that charlatan for? He's nothing but a fraud. Why would you want to see him?" And the young seeker was absolutely affronted because there was no question about the validity of the knowing that Bayazid was a very, very great being. So he railed at the wife, "How can you say that about this great, great man?" And she went off and abused him with vitriol and took her stick to him and sent him away. So the young seeker wandering what was this all about, he found himself in a forest nearby, and when he was walking in the forest, there he came upon none other than Bayazid himself, sitting in a clearing, surrounded by wild animals. And recognizing by his saintly demeanor that it was none other than Bayazid, after giving obeisances to him, he said, I don't understand. How is it that you can have a wife like this, and how do you allow her to treat you like, and speak of you like this? And Bayazid waved his arm around the clearing at all the wild animals, and he said, "How else would it be that I am able to sit here in peace with all of these creatures of the wild?" Now, in the early days, like all young men of good faith of the time, Bayazid wanted to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. So sewing some gold dirhams in his cloak, he set out on the long, long journey that would take him to this sacred place. But along the way, his intuition guided him to many of the saints who lived along that route. And on each occasion, he would go and give obeisance to them, sit with them a while, listen to their wisdom. But then, as he was approaching the great city where the stone lays, he came upon a village and was inexorably guided into that village, where he found an old man sitting in a courtyard, chickens running around under his feet, children climbing on and off his knee, pulling at his beard and his hair. He was old and blind. A goat was tethered nearby, eating a pile of rubbish. But the aura that surrounded this old, seemingly poor and ragged being was ineffable, great. And Bayazid went and knelt at his feet and gave salutations to him. And looking at him with his blind eyes, the old sage said, "And you, great lover of God, Bayezid, where are you going?" And Bayezid said he was going to Mecca. "And what are you going to do there?" said the sage. "Well, I'm going to circumambulate the stone, kiss the stone." "And then what?" said the sage. Bayezid, "Then I will give donation of the gold that I have sewn in my cloak." And looking at him with blind eyes that seemed to pierce through to the very depths of his being, the old sage said to Bayezid, "Circumambulate me, kiss me, give your gold to me, because I am the living God." Now in that moment, Bayezid thought to himself all those thoughts that come to one. Look at this sitting, look at this man. But then the feeling that permeated him, the feeling that surrounded him, overcame all the doubts of the perceptions that his mind could conjure, and without any further questioning, he circumambulated the saint. He kissed his feet and took out the gold dirhams from his cloak and laid them at the feet of the old saint. Later in his life, Bayezid, now a renowned sheikh, sat with a group of those who'd gathered around him, and spending the hours of the day answering their questions about life. By evening time, he would be in a state of ecstasy. But it so happened that in this state, he would begin to say, "I am that God, feed me, bow to me. I am the living God." Now, those who were sitting there were shocked and aghast. How could anyone state such heresy, such blasphemy? So the next day, they related to Bayezid what he had said and what he had done. And he said, oh, then you must punish me. You must stop this. Bring your weapons. And so they did. That evening after the day, as usual, Bayezid in his state of ecstasy again, stating unequivocally, standing in that godhood. His followers took knives and their swords and proceeded to punish him for such blasphemy. But instead of the swords and the knives inflicting wounds on Bayezid, the cuts of the swords and knives brought blood pouring from those who held them. How do these anecdotes allow us to come to know why it is that we have to know who we are and what we do? And how would we know who we are and what we do had we not these experiences of life? Answer this question. Why do we have to know who we are and what we do? And how have we come to know who we are and what we do? We may not dare to stand up in our state of ecstasy and say, I am God, I am the living God. But it pours from every cell. It comes in every statement, every act that we do. How else would we know? And what freedom does it give us to speak and act as that, unstated? Thank you.